What is up, everybody? I'm BobbyFi, back with my man Eric Sheets Haber. We are going to be doing a Draftkings lineup build, going through the slate. We're going to go game by game. We're going to talk about our favorite, spots, who we like the best. We sort of have constructed, Eric has anyway, and we're pretty much on the same page with a lot of our core plays. These guys are going to be in a large portion of our lineups. It's going to obviously be impossible. We can't play them all together because you can see the pricing doesn't work. But so it's trying to not only just find the value, but try and find ways we can keep most of this core, or at least two or three of these guys together where we can, because they're our favorite plays. They're not astronomically my favorite plays, so I'm okay with going some different routes, and we'll talk about that. But they are guys who stand out as being above the rest. I have them as the highest owned in my early builds, with the exception of Siakam, who I think is a great play, but I just think there's a lot of great plays, so I have them a little bit lower. But anyway, we'll get into it. Eric, how you doing today, man? Talk a little bit about why you like these guys and sort of your overall thoughts on the slate.
Well, again, I have my little cheat sheet up here. Again, I always try to remind myself, about creating GPP lineups and GPP builds that, it's a process. You have to find good plays, which, again, it's actually not the hardest thing in the world. But then once you find good plays, you have to figure out if you can play them all. And number two, you have to figure out if everybody else is going to be playing them. And number three, if they have any good upside from those projections and whether they correlate well with one another. So I kind of have this little cheat sheet up on the right, which I always kind of remind myself of is, after you find the good plays, why are you going to get off them? You know what I mean? Are you going to find better correlations? Are you going to find exact pivots that are going to be lower owned, et cetera? So yeah, it was really annoying, Bobby. I found like all these really good plays and, so I ran out of money. I mean, what the hell? So, and unfortunately, that's kind of the way it goes, So these are the five kind of, I guess, core plays. I mean, call it what it is. These are the five plays that, again, based on my analysis of the projections that were out there relative to value, without even accounting for ownership at all, these were kind of my 4 or 5 best plays. And, we could go over why these are all my best plays, but let's just leave it to the fact that the projections kind of made them my best plays. And, we have Luka, and Giannis. You see Sabonis in there. Sabonis, we're still going to have Malcolm Brogdon out, so a lot of the usage is going to continue to go to Sabonis. And not to mention his matchup is probably, as usual, pretty good against Brooklyn. He's only 7,300, but all that gets factored in the projections anyway. Then Pascal Siakam, which Bobby and I don't want to say differ on a little bit, but again, it's not me differing. I mean, it's just like my baseline, and this is what I kind of start off with. And I'm always open to get off of these guys. But all 5 of these guys, including Tristan Thompson, who is going to obviously benefit from the fact that both Kevin Love and Larry Nance Jr. is going to be out. These are the guys who are going to be popping on pretty much every projection system there is out there. And as we talked about last time, in basketball, unlike a lot of the other sports, projection systems are usually, close. I mean, closer than in other sports. So you can't really argue too much with the top plays projections relative to value. So these are the 5 guys that I just want to just throw into this quote unquote mythical lineup, so that when we go back into the game by game analysis, we'll be able to find pivots and we'll be able to find correlations and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to point out, I agree that Siakam does stand out, especially if you look at it like, every projection system will have him one of the top point per dollars for any spend up. Same with Luka on Draftkings, same with Giannis and Sabonis. So these guys all make sense to me. The first thing I want to think about is, do I want to run it back in some of these cases? So we'll get into it when we go game by game. But initially, my thoughts would be on the San Antonio side, I'm not as excited, although I think that DeJounte Murray has upside. And I think that as much as gross as it feels on a big slate to play, and we're still going to see those 50-point games from LaMarcus Aldridge from time to time. This is a matchup where he could really get a ton of boards and actually, could actually have one of his bigger games. So I'm just thinking a little bit about that, although it's not high on my list. But I do think that the Giannis one is one I want to attack because that's a high target game. I think you've got 3 really relevant bulls on the other side that you can run it back with, and I think you can use more than one of them potentially. We'll get into that as the game by games go.
Yeah, you're basically, that's what you're doing, man. You're burying all the leads, right? This is exactly what we're going to try to do, is figure out as we go game by game which of these core plays can be correlated with somebody else. And I'm looking so much. I'm really looking forward to talking about these Chicago guys and arguing about whether we should ever.
Or is it maybe worth it though to deviate? Because that's what I was going to say. Because there's one on my core plays. Russell Westbrook would be one of my guys, which immediately makes me want to play Damian Lillard, run it right back. So That's a different type of stack that we'd obviously have to do something a little bit different here. Maybe maybe eliminates the bonus in Siakam and just try and hope. So we'll see as we go. So anyway, let's get into game by game.
We got all kinds of stuff to look forward to. We got Aaron Baines' revenge to look forward to. So we'll get to all that a little bit later.
All right. Well, let's start it off. Let's click on the first game here. We got Cleveland at New York.
So Cleveland and New York, again, within the construct of what we talked about. So there are two guys actually that are popping pretty heavily, both from this game, and actually the same position on both sides. So on the one hand, with these guys out, with Kevin Love and Larry Nance Jr. out, you would think that Tristan Thompson would be popping, and he is. I mean, it's incredible value according to least projection systems I'm looking at. And yet, then on the other hand, also Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks side is also actually showing up as a pretty good value, both of them at 5,400. So the first thing I would look at is if I were going to play Tristan Thompson at all, again, right, are there Knick guys which I would kind of want to run him back with, or are there guys within Cleveland that I want to stack him up with? So the two guys that, well, there are three guys, but two guys that I thought about, first of all, from the Cleveland side, which Bobby and I talked about a little bit pre-show, was, again, this is a small sample size, but I'm pretty sure that the last two times that they had both Larry Nance Jr. and Kevin Love out, Chetty Osman just had huge games. I think it was between 35 and 40 fantasy points. I mean, he could play some 5, I think. And so, he is showing up a little bit on the projections, and he is only 4,100 on a slate that is pretty starved for cheap value. So on the Cleveland side, the guy I would go as my second guy there would be Chetty Osman. There are other guys you could kind of take shots at, but that would be the guy I would think about. And on the Knicks side, along with Mitchell Robinson, which we talked about, who could be somewhat chalky, I'm always a big kind of Julius Randle guy. He's he wants the usage. He loves to have the ball in his hands, and he projects really, really well also. So he'd be one guy to run it back with. And then we got to talk about the guards, and we got to talk about R.J. Barrett, who he's sometimes hit or miss, but that the coach wants to play him minutes if he's playing well. I was actually at the game last week when these two teams actually played, where he wasn't playing well and he was just benched in the second half pretty much. So there's him you could play. And then, if you wanted to, again, it's probably not the slate, but I just throw it out there that, the Dennis Smith Jr., again, he played 10 minutes in the last game and got 5 fouls in 10 minutes. He's a guy that I know the coach wants to play. And you talk about upside. Every projection system I'm looking at has him playing 12 minutes. And I don't know, I just think there's upside from that. Is that going to be worth it on this slate? Especially when the starter, Frank Ntilikina, is 4,100, even less than? Probably not. I'm not sure, but I figure I'll throw it out there since we are talking about the game.
Yeah, it's for me. I totally get it. I mean, I was on it the other night. I didn't pull the trigger as much as I wish I did. But I don't feel the need to do it on this slate, especially at the 4,200 price tag. I do want to talk about this game because I think this is a spot. I mean, early in the day, I've basically put a target on everyone in this game who I think has a chance of playing 24 or more minutes. I don't think much of the Knicks defensively. I don't think this game is going to play like lightning quick, but I think it'll play fast enough. I actually think it might play a little faster than usual without Love, although Thompson's still older and slow. They did get Zizic back, who I'm actually going to put in my script, and I'm going to play some Zizic at no ownership. And I think that there's minutes upside for him, even in somehow a weird blowout potentially. I just think at a minimum cost guy, like early in the day when we're starving for some value, he's another one I would put on there. Obviously, Thompson and Osman are the top two guys for me. I think that you don't play Zizic with Thompson, but maybe in a different lineup. I also don't mind the idea of I'm going to play 10-15% of Darius Garland, of Colin Sexton. I'm probably going to throw in Kevin Porter into a few lineups. It's going to be a different type of rotation. The only thing that worries me is if they go 4 guards. The Knicks play enough big guys and have enough big guys where I don't think they can really do that. So I think that no matter what, you're going to see 3 guard lineups from Cleveland rotating a lot of the guards, and then you're going to see these forwards play, the guys who they can use as forwards play extra minutes, which would include someone like Porter who can play forward, even Sexton who could probably guard threes, like Jordan Clarkson with upside just because of the usage change. You just don't really know. It's going to be a weird spot, but I think that targeting some of these other guys and making a little stack, running it back with just R.J. Barrett, not even needing to go to Mitchell Robinson, although I don't hate it. I would rather just do that. I'd like to play 3 of these guys and one Nick in some lineups, and I do think there's going to be a Cav in most of my lineups, be it Thompson or Osman most likely, but there will be some exposure to all those other guys. And then I think this is part of why we're talking more about this game. I think this is an important one to actually be aware of, just because the injuries for Cleveland are going to, they're slate changers already. I do want to just say on the other side that RJ Barrett, and then you can definitely play Julius Randle and take a shot on him. I prefer that route over the Mitchell Robinson route personally. I think there's more upside. So I know he's a little bit more expensive, but that's just the route that I'm going.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get talked into having too much exposure with this game unless I'm playing a bunch of line. I just think there's a lot of plays out there, a lot of games. But definitely, if you're going to play this game, I mean, I would certainly talk about using the guys that we talked about.
I just think it's important to remember during the NBA season about value versus like when everybody's out, it creates just a completely different kind of value. Like by the time Westbrook was out the other night, like McLemore was a can't miss because he's going to have to play 1,000,000 minutes. You know what I mean? Right. When you get that many, you know what I'm saying? And because you also had even the other positions that affect you. You don't have Capella. You know what I mean? It goes on and on. So that's why I want to target that game. And I want to talk about the Cleveland Indiana game in a minute, but we'll get to Charlotte, Toronto first. I'm going to actually start this one off if you don't mind, because I'd like to just mention that there are 2 plays on Charlotte. That's it that I'm even considering. I think this is going to be a quick game for me to go through. I'm going to play probably just a shot or 2 of Miles Bridges, who I think at 4,300 just has too much upside minutes-wise. I know he had a different type of game. He's got a massive ceiling, so he's a guy you got to keep your eye on any of the time. And he's, somewhat blow up. I don't really know where he stands on the blow up, or if they play a weird rotations last game in Charlotte, but anyway, I like a little bit of him, and then I actually think that Batum might have the upside to take a shot, but I probably won't end up there. I do think I'm going to end up on Bridges. I think Batum, maybe at minimum cost on FanDuel, you could play him over there.
This is all I would say about this game is that, again, because Siakam is one of the guys I kind of looked at, is Siakam is being projected for 36 minutes or so. He's been playing.
I think more than that.
Well, the one I'm looking at is what I'm saying. The minutes that I'm looking at that I'm basing these projections on, that's what my point was, is that they're only projecting for 36, 37 minutes, but he's been playing like 40. He's been playing like 40, 41, yeah. And so maybe there's actually upside if it's possible from these minutes. But I would love to, if I were going to play Siakam, like you said, it's tough to find a really, really good play on the Charlotte side. So I'm already thinking that the first one.
Bridges, in my opinion, Bridges is the play. If you're going to force it to run somebody back, I just think that he's the guy who could play 35 minutes and put up 45 fantasy points. Like he had that game in him.
But already looking ahead, you know what I mean? Is it that exciting to have the Miles Bridges Siakam mini stack as opposed to some of these other ones that we're probably going to get to?
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight Bridges because I understand with Batum back, I'm worried about it, but his minutes are not going to change all that much. He can do a lot of different things on the court. Toronto plays with pace sometimes. Bridges is going to be a really good player. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit on him. He's the one I want to focus on in this game. I don't really want to target too much of even the Toronto side. I think most likely this game does turn into I don't want to predict blowouts, but I'll say that I think this could get ugly. And I like Anunoby and I like Siakam. I don't think I'm playing anybody else in this game.
Yeah, but you know what, Bobby? I mean, I hear people say that all the time. They don't want to predict blowouts. Okay, while you can't predict blowouts, you can certainly predict probability of blowouts. You know what I mean? Like there are certain games that are more likely to blow out than others. So it's not so easy. Well, I mean, Golden's, XYZ is a 25-point favorite over such and such. I can't predict the blowout, so I'm still going to give Harden his 36 minutes or whatever. I mean, there are certain probabilities associated with blowouts that you do have to keep in mind. And also, there's certain upside from other guys. So, like, for example, it's not, I don't want to spend too much on this, but if this were a game, for example, where, Toronto, they were projecting Toronto guys at only, say, 32 minutes because they thought it was going to blow out, that means that if you want to pick guys from Charlotte,
yeah, of course,
then you can play those other guys. So
yeah, agreed.
Okay, Indiana, Brooklyn. Again, in my head, as I'm looking at this game, I'm thinking, if I want to play Sabonis in this game, and again, maybe I won't play him at all in this game. But again, as I get to this game, that's what I'm trying to think about is whether this kind of core play kind of fits. So Obviously, for those, who are following it, I mean, Indiana, what's his name? Brogdon remains out, and TJ McConnell was ruled out. So, obviously a lot of that usage goes to the guards. And as a result, I mean, guys like Aaron Holiday are going to be, emerging as values.
People are not going to play Aaron Holiday on Draftkings.
Right. Well, my point is that you have to also keep in mind at different sites. It was Aaron Holiday's 5,500 on Draftkings, but he's only 3,800 on FanDuel. And
I think he's 40. I think he's 41 on FanDuel.
Was that right?
Yeah.
So right. So, but the point is that he's incredible value there, which of course is going to translate to him being 60% owned there, right? So you always have to balance that out. But on the Indiana side, aside from Sabonis, if you want to stack him with someone, I always very nervous about playing two bigs together in the same lineup. So I would never really consider playing, not never, but I would not like to play both Sabonis and Turner together. Although Turner is, showing up as a pretty decent value in a good matchup. Maybe if I really like Turner, I would actually pivot off of Sabonis and play Turner instead of Sabonis. I don't know if I want to do that, but that's one thing I've been looking at. And then on the other side, Brooklyn, again, everybody's got to really pay attention to Kyrie Irving. If, in fact, he is out again, Spencer Dinwiddie, who was a really great value and chalk, but in a non-main slate, right? So maybe people didn't even follow the game. If, in fact, Irving is ruled out, then Dinwiddie is going to pop as an incredible value on all the projection systems, and he's going to be really chalky. So that is something that you definitely have to look at. But aside from those guys, I mean, on the Brooklyn side of things, I really, if Irving is playing, I mean, I consider playing him. I mean, he's always got a big ceiling, and for whatever reason he's playing better at home. So if you want to run a Sabonis Irving correlation, you could do that. But again, what I always like to do is the correlations I always like are kind of guards against the guards, because they kind of really just kind of like go after each other. And we're going to get to a good example of a game like that coming up. But, if you did want to just do a straight value correlation, I mean, Sabonis and or Turner with Kyrie Irving would probably be the way I would do it.
Yeah, for me, I'm very interested in the Indiana side of this one. I love Turner. I love Sabonis. I don't know that I'll play them together, but I don't actually mind it that much. I really like TJ Warren at no ownership. I think they're going to need someone else to initiate offense. I also like Holiday on DraftKings. This is like sort of an unusual. This guy's a good player. They used a first-round pick on him. We know who his brothers are. He's actually playing with one of them. He's going to get plenty of chances to take shots. I expect him to put up 30 to 50 fantasy points. I know 50 seems like a stretch, but there's probably room for even ceiling on that against a Brooklyn defense that plays, really poor defense, especially transition defense. So I just sort of like Holiday on both sites here. I know he's going to be chalk on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I don't think people are going to play him at 5,500. So I'm very interested in that. Of course, it makes me want to run it back. So I'm looking at Dinwiddie regardless. I actually think you can play him either way, but I much prefer him. Obviously, if Kyrie doesn't play, but he also becomes chalk. I also think that Jared Allen gets a boost in this game. They might play both bigs together. You might see some of him and Jordan together. At 4.9, I just think Allen has enough room for ceiling. He closes now. Like, he could a double basically get you at 30. So any extra blocks he can get you, and he can get you some. You can be at 40 plus easily. So just think it's worth mentioning as far as running back guys. And then if somehow Terrain Prince is like the last guy in your lineup, especially if there's no Kyrie, then you can use him. Feel free, but otherwise, I think you can still use him a little in a stack. I just wouldn't get crazy with it outside of
that. Okay. Portland, Houston. This is, it's funny that I didn't really think too much about this game. I guess it's just the plays would be either too obvious or stuff that I wouldn't, or not obvious enough, I suppose. So it's a 230 total. The guys that you would project to be well projected are well projected. I mean, on the Portland side, I mean, Lillard and Whiteside look pretty good, and CJ McCollum would be the next, and we'll talk about a value guy in a second. But then on the Houston side, I mean, Westbrook is back, so at least that means that Harden is not going to be 70% owned if you wanted to play Harden. But then again, I mean, that does eat into Harden's usage. I actually worry about Westbrook a little bit. So I'm going to need you as my Westbrook whisperer to kind of talk me back on him. He just doesn't seem to be doing it. But you could certainly talk me on him at 8,300. And the other guys, I guess, if we're presuming Capella's back, I presume he's still, he's going to look pretty good. And Daniel House is popping in projection systems. He's 3,700 and in a slate that is, once again, it's kind of starved for that sub 4K value, at least for now. He's something I'm just going to have to put in my player pool in case I need him.
Yeah, I understand that, all those thoughts. On the Portland side, I just want to start. I'm very interested in Damian Lillard, partly because I am playing a ton of Westbrook tonight. Yeah. I think you're going to get way less ownership on this matchup than you should. And the truth is, I know Lillard killed him in the playoffs that one time, but like other than that, Westbrook has crushed him a bunch. They've gone at each other and they put up monster games against each other. Their prices make them really easily playable because I think they both get 50 here more often than not. I think Harden's price just keeps him out of play for me pretty much on DK, with the exception of maybe a lineup or two, because I prefer Giannis. And I also I think Westbrook has a better edge in this matchup. And Lillard is not a strong defender. And I do think McCollum is an irritant and can maybe wear down a little bit of a guy like a Harden. So I think that Westbrook is where I'm prioritizing it tonight. I think he's going to go for between 50 and 80 fantasy points. I know that's a big range, but anywhere over 50 is good with me. I like Lillard running it back. And then Nasir Little as the value play is going to play a ton of minutes. But I don't know that I want to lock him in. I'm hoping for better value. Him and Daniel House both are going to play a lot of minutes, and I'm not overwhelmingly excited to play either of them, but I do think they're currently on the board at least. That's sort of where I'm at for this game. I'm not really playing guys like Whiteside or McCollum or Harden very much tonight. That's just not where I am.
Well, again, the things I'm thinking about is if you want to play Lillard and Westbrook at, I guess, 15%. I suppose. Yeah. Is that better, or worse, or indifferent than playing Giannis with, I don't know, Zach LaVine or somebody like that? Or maybe do a little of both. So again, you put these correlation.
Combination of them together probably is about the same ownership.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, because I don't think that most people who are playing Westbrook are necessarily playing Lillard. I think they're just playing them individually, actually.
But people are worried about playing Westbrook or Harden. You know what I mean? They're just worried about playing both because
this is the time you got to stay with it, because you might happen again tonight. But look, we know overall this guy's still averaging 5.5x, and he's been playing horrible. Come on, let's be reasonable. We're just gonna keep playing. We're gonna keep riding the guy. At least for me, that's the way I'm gonna play. Westbrook will be in most of my Draftkings lineups. I don't think he'll be on that many of my FanDuel lineups, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right, so we kind of alluded to this game a couple of times. So the Milwaukee-Chicago game, again, we're starting with this because I got to put him back in here, is one of the better values on the day is Giannis. And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this about value. I mean, if you look at projections and you sort just by points per dollar, that's not necessarily the best way to talk about value, because, the bigger a salary a guy is, their points per dollar are going to just be that much more valuable. I mean, if you find a guy, you won't find him, but there's a guy, for example, that's $1,000 that's going to project for 7 fantasy points. I mean, yeah, it's 7x, but so what? So when you do look at projection systems, I mean, if you find guys that are projected both for a lot of raw points and good points per dollar, I mean, those are the plays that are just kind of tough to fade. So Giannis is kind of one of those guys. I mean, he's projected to have a good points per dollar and good raw points, which is why it's difficult. And to fade him, and I mean, why would you want to? I mean, he's in a game that has some Chicago guys that you can run it back with. So first of all, Milwaukee, let me look real fast. And I wasn't going to play anybody else in Milwaukee, so I would just hope that Giannis just sucks up all the usage and be done with it. And I would focus more on the Chicago side.
If anybody wants to play Eric Bledsoe, that's fine. I'm not going to, but I will play. I will have a bit of Giannis.
So on the Chicago side, I mean, I would say your usual suspects. I would find it difficult to play any game stack or even mini stack without some Zach LaVine in it. I mean, he just always has that explosion upside. He always has usage upside. I mean, he's just one of those DFS dudes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And nobody plays him ever. You know, so
Pleasant.
he's it's maybe they will today. I don't know. I mean, he was not projected for that much, and he just always is that guy. I mean, he can frustrate you from time to time, but I mean that's why you play GPPs, and that's why you look for guys with upside. Maybe their median is not necessarily as good as somebody like, I don't know. I use Siakam as an example. You know, he's just different prices or whatever. But you have a guy with Siakam that Levine is going to shoot so many times that he has that much variance in him that, you know, things are going well and then he just decides to continue to go off. I mean, everybody stays out of the way, and then next thing you know, he's got 70 points. You know, so
the weirdest thing is Levine is not even that high variance of a player. It's perception of him that is, and it's just wrong. That's all I can say about it. Like, he is always underpriced. He's always overperforming. He has a couple bad games every month, and
right.
It brings him down. He's put up 46 and 41 in his last 2 games. Either of those are decent at his price. Obviously, the 46 was against Milwaukee in this matchup in Milwaukee. 8 for 20, nothing special in that game. No reason he couldn't do anything like that again. We would be happy with that at this price. Great run back option in my opinion, and I love the upside for Markkanen and Carter. Carter killed me last time in this matchup, fouling out in 22 minutes, but we like our bigs against Milwaukee, and I think you can play Levine with one of those guys and run it back with Giannis. I think I might even do that on FanDuel. Just something I'm considering.
So the usual, you know, we had this exact same discussion about this game last time, I guess, or at least a different Chicago game. And
yeah.
Again, it's just really important that I get this right. That I you know, if I'm going to play Carter, I probably don't want to play him with Markkanen, right? I probably want to play Levine with Carter, Levine with Markkanen. Maybe that's overthinking it.
I'd prefer it, or even Kobe White with one of those guys, but I do think that you wouldn't probably
right.
I do think you could play some of those guys together tonight, but I don't think that's probably what I'll do mostly.
I'm not a big I wouldn't be a big Kobe White, Zach Levine combination because one of them's ball hogging, the other one isn't. You know, that's the way it is. And the other guy I want to look into more is Satoransky. It's just a way to be different.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, but I get it.
Okay. Okay. So if I wanted to go this route, you know, I don't know. For me, the Cleveland, New York thing is starting to look a little weaker than the others, but we can get back to it. All right. So the next game, where are we? Milwaukee, Chicago,
San Antonio, Dallas.
Yeah, which again is a good spot because again, one of our guys that we had in our main lineup before was Luka.
Right.
And standing on his own, Luka is, you know, he's just a great player. I mean, he projects really well. He's just a freaking beast. That's the best analytical term I could come up with to do that. I mean, he's just going off. And the question I would have again is anybody I would want alongside him from Dallas. I've played Porzingis along with Doncic. It just feels wrong. So I don't think I'm going to do it. And nobody else from Dallas really, you know, I would really want. On the other side, again, San Antonio against the usual guys like DeJounte Murray. Again, but DeJounte Murray, we have that same discussion about DeJounte Murray about what is his upside. I mean, until
his upside is high still because he can do it.
Yeah, but unless Popovich is going to play him over 30 minutes and really dedicate himself to that, you know, it's I don't know. I don't know if I want to do too much of it. I'm just trying to think of a good run back option.
I think we're overthinking it. I think we're thinking of too many plays in this slate, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's just basically Doncic on one side, and then you play either Murray or Aldridge, maybe even or DeRozan on the other side, but I'm not interested in anything else about this game. I think we have to not overextend ourselves, even though the game, I get it. It's just not a place I want a full game stack.
Well, just one thing I just want to say before going through it is when going past it is when you look at LMA, and this is this thing I struggle with as far as construction and building lineups, is like Aldridge for me is not showing as a good value. It just isn't, right? He just isn't. And he also, for me, is kind of a tough guy for me to play. So he'd be a guy that I would only play if he were really, really low on and in correlation with Doncic. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
He will be low. That's why you like him. You like him because he's going to be crazy low owned. He has 50 plus upside in a good matchup and is going to be completely ignored.
Okay.
That's
all right, go ahead. Minnesota, Utah. I really didn't have, and we talked about this a little bit before we started, but I really didn't have a lot of interest in this game. Minnesota, on the Minnesota side, just nobody was really popping as that that great of a value. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns always has a ceiling and always has upside, but I think on this slate, I mean, I just found I would say that Luka at a lower price is probably going to just blow him off the map, if you want to know the truth. But I mean, for me to tell you not to play Cat, whatever, I don't think I'm going to. We got to talk about Minnesota value in a minute, but we'll get back to it.
That is a lot of the Minnesota value though is Cat. That does change things a little bit. I don't mind playing Cat tonight. I think I'll probably be with the field on him, but I do think that there is legit 75, 80 against Gobert even. Like, I don't think that he cares anymore. I think he's a different guy this year. So I sort of like him. I sort of like him here, but I really don't think I'm going to be going crazy with anybody from the Minnesota side. I think I'm going to be dabbling with a lot of them unless we hear that Okaji is out. That's the one thing we have to hear about. I do think they make for all strong plays on FanDuel. Kind of want to go through this game quickly too, because I only really find myself with interest in both Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And I guess to some extent you could play Ingles or Conley. My rule with teams like Minnesota is try to be, if you're playing a lot of tournaments, try to be above the field on about double the lineups. It's about double the field on almost all the players who are significant producers if their prices are reasonable, and they certainly are. So I don't mind taking shots on absolutely any of those guys. The matchup is terrific against this Minnesota team who plays really fast. So that's sort of where I'm at. It's a boost up for Utah guys, but I don't think I'm going to be going crazy with anyone except Gobert and Mitchell, maybe a little. Gobert and Mitchell maybe around 15, 20%.
Okay. All right, moving along then. I alluded to this earlier. In Boston, Phoenix, as far as straight projections go and straight value goes, nobody's really showing to be that big of a deal, which, I mean, it is a 230 total in a close game. You'd think that somebody would kind of emerge, but, it looks like the pricing's pretty decent. I alluded to this before. Aaron Baines did, in fact, play for Boston. He's actually still showing a Celtics uniform in his Draftkings profile. But, obviously, that's just one component of it. He happens to be playing really, really well the whole season. So I would not be opposed to, I mean, if Tristan Thompson is going to get all kinds of ownership at 5,600, I'm just kind of looking at this. And if you want to try to take a shot at Aaron Baines at 5,100 at whatever percentage of the ownership, I certainly wouldn't kill you for that. Again, I really wasn't paying too much attention to this game, but I guess that's the one thing that I would just comment on right now.
Yeah, I like Baines, but I also think there's a lot of strong plays at center, so it's a little bit harder for me to get there. And I don't mind if you want to play like a Tatum and Booker lineup. I just wouldn't prioritize this game, and I think we should probably just move
on. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So what is
the Clippers OKC?
Clippers OKC. All right, now once again, same deal, and I guess it's going to happen for a while until they adjust his price. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's the top projected value on Oklahoma City, and no one else is really showing us a good value at all as far as what I look at. And on the Clippers side, I presume, again, I always have to make sure that Kawhi is playing. You know what I mean? Like, he's just I look at him as kind of a part-time player. And so I guess he's playing, but he's 9,300. I would ask what you thought of Paul George. I mean, so the minutes projection I'm looking at here only has 26 minutes. So
yeah, you can't do any of that on this slate. In my opinion, you cross the Clippers off on this slate. That's what I do. I don't think anybody's in play for the Clippers, in my opinion.
Well, if you're going to cross the Clippers off, I mean, I can't imagine what you'd want to do on the OKC side, unless you really wanted to play Alexander. I mean,
I'll play Shai or Chris Paul. I don't care. I actually think I might take a stand a little bit with Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, interesting.
He's hurt me, like the revenge games or whatever. But the guy played 38 minutes and played really aggressive. He had how many free throws? He take 14 free throws or something the other night. And if he's gonna do that, like in a competitive game, sign me up. Like that makes his upside through the roof. And I feel like Beverly would just. That's the kind of thing he would just go at somebody who went after him. I do worry this game could get ugly, but I have no interest in running any of it back with anybody. If they end up in my lineups, it's probably out of just, okay, fine, I'll throw Kawhi into something because I have exactly 9,300 that I need, and I have Shai or something. But I'm just going to play one of those two guys, and I think I'll have a pretty good portion of them.
Well, let's do this then. All right. So we didn't miss any game, right? So
Yeah, I don't think Dinwiddie is like somebody like we want to lock in, so I would take him off of there. And
well, let's do this. Okay. So we thought about these cores and let's review back in our heads what we kind of thought about, right? So I mean, it didn't seem like the Dallas run back was particularly exciting, right? And so what would happen if we started building our core or building our I guess core lineups out of this Milwaukee game, right? And let's get rid of the Brooklyn, let's get rid of the Indiana for now. And so if we started building it out of the Milwaukee game, then we could go with something like, so where were we? So going back to Chicago, who do we talk about? So let's do the Zach
LaVine. I think if you're going to make it on this slate, you got to try LaVine
so
with one of them.
Let's do LaVine with either Carter or Markkanen. So we could do.
I would give Carter the edge, but I think they both are.
You know what? One's 6,000, one's 5,900. So we'll worry about that later. So do we want to play three guys? Probably not. So let's just go with these two guys. Now let's just because maybe this is lower owned.
I don't really want the correlation doesn't make enough sense for me to force in Bridges, but it also doesn't make enough sense for me to. I like Siakam at this price, so maybe we can call him as a standalone at this price. I just prefer to go another way myself. But let's keep going with this one.
Well, I don't know. So if we're going to presume that, and the Indiana one wasn't too exciting either. You know what I'm kind of into? Something that we talked about was that Portland Houston deal, right? So if we're only I wonder if you can get all these in. I wonder if you can get this in. I don't know about this, but
if you get rid of Siakam,
that's what I'm saying. Like if you can get both Westbrook and Lillard in, you could be a genius. I don't know.
But you don't have enough. No, they can't do it, and you don't have enough anyway. Value on this slate to do it with that. But I did look at that earlier.
Did you? Yeah. So no, we could try. We could try to go back to this Cleveland game after all. Because like you said, it's not going to be a high owned game for openers. So if you want to then go back to Barrett, right, on the Knicks side, and we can come back to
Thompson.
Well, or I mean,
I think you have to play Thompson if you're going to play the Knicks side at all.
Well, I was going to say you want to get really cutesy and play Osman.
Oh, I'd play Osman also. I think you should be playing Osman here.
You could play Osman and Thompson?
Oh, yeah. Nothing at all. No problem at all. That makes no difference.
So if you have Thompson and Osman and Barrett, I mean, I don't know if I want to play another Nick, although you could go play Mitchell Robinson if you wanted to.
No, the next player you would look at on this list for me would be, so you have the great guys at price of the 56, 59, all that. I think you could play. You'd look at Turner and Sabonis.
Right. So
I think you play like a Sabonis in here, but you can't. You need a minimum price guard, which we don't really have on this slate. Nasir Little as a forward. I think we could. Oh yeah, we could move things around.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about
We can't do. We talked a little bit about Nasir Little. I mean, look, it's just a minimum cost play. Like, I mean, Daniel House would be right there too. Like, it's it's not exciting, but it's a guy who's going to play 30 minutes.
You don't think you can get use your DK lineup magic and get Sabonis in here with some of this multiple position eligibility?
Yeah, you could play Sabonis with Markkanen instead of Carter. And you'd need that minimum cost. Yeah, it's not with the current eligibilities. Oh wait, no, yeah, you can. Wait, no, you can't. Weird. Okay, anyway, well, so it doesn't quite work. We have the price, but we don't have the right position. But that's sort of along the lines of something that we can try and mess with. And if there is a guard that opens up at minimum cost, which is totally possible in the modern day NBA.
It is totally possible. But what I was saying is that it's not the biggest deal if you don't get all of those guys. You know what I mean? Like when we talked about that, Siakam's a good guy and Luka's good, and you could make a case that Sabonis is good. I mean, you can't have everybody, right? If you have five big high-scoring values, I mean, you're going to have to take, I don't want to say full stands, but you're going to have to take some kind of stands where you can't use everybody in every lineup. So you got to make sure that the ones that you are using, that you're correlating properly. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you could certainly play around with this, but I think that there is opportunities here to get low-owned lineups out of this. As long, you know what I mean, as long as you have have a little faith that some of this upside is going to get there.
Yeah, I'm gonna just read off real quickly, like just my highest ownership stand.
Oh, go for it.
We probably should get this loaded so people can watch it before.
Go for it.
We've got. I just wanted to mention, like, we talked about these guys a lot. Giannis would be my highest owned player. Westbrook would be right behind him, along with Tristan Thompson. Right behind those guys would be Sabonis, or probably right about the same as Thompson would be Sabonis. Doncic just behind him. Then the next level down, I would go to Levine, Markkanen, Carter. I'll have them in a pretty decent number of tournaments. And then we get to TJ Warren, Barrett, Osman, and Chris Paul and Damian Lillard. That's sort of the chunk of guys who I'm mostly picking from. Oh, and Miles Turner. I'm just going through those guys in different combinations, trying to correlate. There's obviously some other players involved in some of them, but those are the guys who I have the highest ownership on as of 12:40 or 3:45 Eastern Standard Time. Obviously, things will probably change once we hear everybody's out after the show.
Yeah, well, sounds good. I mean, again, just watch that news a half hour before lock that was going to take out all of your exposure for your 50% owned guy. But yeah. NBA's a war zone out there.
It is, man. Well, hey, man, really appreciate you doing the show with me. I'm going to get this video up and loaded. So I think if there's nothing else, I'm going to just call it. And I want to say goodbye to the people before we get out of here.
Sounds good. And good luck to everybody tonight.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.